King Sejong, born Ido, was the fourth king of the Joseon dynasty. He's remembered, first and foremost, for inventing the Hunminjeongeum, better known as hangul, the Korean alphabet, which I have discussed in part 1. In this video, I will discuss his life more thoroughly and look at other achievements of his. In 1408, at the age of 11, he was arranged to marry Lady Shim, later known as Queen Soheon. Her father was Shim On, who became chief state counselor in 1418, the same year and month as Sejong's enthronement. Shim On had considerable influence in the kingdom, being the father of the queen. Sejong heard a rumor that Shim On's brother complained that Sejong's power was limited by Sejong. Sejong condemned the whole Shim family. Shim On was away on a diplomatic mission in Ming China at the time. When he came back, he was arrested for treason, tortured, and executed. It is said that this whole affair was a plot concocted by Pak Un, the left state counselor and rival of Shim On. Before his execution, Shim On exclaimed, "My sons, do not marry a Pak. It will bring shame and misfortune to the family." Sejong, being a conservative king, didn't want families outside of the dynasty to gain too much power. Therefore, he is also partly to blame for what happened to Shim On and his family. It goes without saying that Sejong's first year on the throne was quite difficult. Sejong protected Queen Soheon from the purge. It helped that she had given birth to 2 princes before this conflict. King Sejong continued his father's work in suppressing Buddhism. He banned monks from entering the capital, Hanzong, modern-day Seoul. He reduced the 7 schools of Buddhism to 2, Sun and Gyo. Later in Joseon, only Sun remained. During the Goryeo dynasty, Buddhist monks had strong influence in politics, but in Joseon, which was Confucian, officials viewed Buddhist temples and monks as being corrupt and following a false philosophy. King Sejong seized many temple lands and redistributed them for development. Buddhist temples lost large amounts of economic power and influence. Interestingly, in 1427, Sejong ordered that the Huehui, Central Asian Muslims, be treated like all other Koreans and stop being given stipends. Before 1427, they were given a stipend since the Mongol rule of Goryeo. They had their mosque, their own clothing and headgear, as well as culture. It is said that Sejong changed this status quo because the Huehui reminded him of the Mongol rule of Korea. Sejong suppressed Buddhism, although in his personal life he was a believer in Buddhism. He wanted to balance the state ideology of Neo-Confucianism with tolerance for Buddhism in non-official contexts. As a matter of fact, Sejong composed a Buddhist hymn for his late queen. It's called Songs of the Moon's Reflections on 1,000 Rivers, Worincheongangjigok. It's Korea's oldest existing type-printed publication in hangul. From 1423 to 1425, Sejong attempted to introduce the Joseon Tongbo, a bronze coin backed by silver standard, but was dropped because it was too expensive to produce. King Sejong supported the advancement of military technology, namely cannons, different kinds of mortar, and fire arrows. In 1418, his father, Sejong, took the decision to invade Tsushima Island to stop the Japanese pirate incursions on the peninsula. A truce was made, and the Joseon army returned to the peninsula a year later. Japanese pirates' attacks were greatly reduced. The Treaty of Gyehae was signed in 1443 between King Sejong and So Sadamori, the daimyo of Tsushima. So Sadamori and his clan were granted exclusive rights to conduct trade with Joseon in 50 ships per year and allowed entry to only 3 Korean ports in exchange for their help in stopping Japanese pirate raids on the Korean peninsula. In 1433, King Sejong sent Kim Jongseo north to repel the Jurchens, later known as the Manchus. A tribe of Jurchens often crossed the Tumen and Yalu River and raided the Joseon border. They were successful in taking control of parts of the Hamgyong province. General Kim Jongseo defeated the Jurchens there and strengthened the borders against future attacks. King Sejong was a big lover of science, and in 1420, he created the Hall of Worthies. It was meant to be a collection of Joseon's best and brightest thinkers. Grants and scholarships were offered to encourage young scholars to attend. Sejong wanted to help farmers, so he wrote a book, the Nongsa Jiksol, that contained information about different farming techniques for the different regions of the kingdom. In following these guidelines, the farmers could adopt methods of intensive and continuous cultivation in Joseon agriculture. Jang Yongshil was a young scholar that attracted Sejong's attention. The king gave him a government position and funding for his inventions. There was some protest from nobles because Jang Yongshil was from a lower class, but that didn't stop Sejong. Jang Yongshil came up with new designs for water clocks, armillary spheres, and sundials. He also made the chigugi, the first well-known rain gauge. That word, chigugi, was recorded in the annals of the Joseon Dynasty. Jang Yongshil also invented the gabinja, a printing press that was twice as fast as the previous models. Sejong reformed the Korean calendar and based it on the capital Hansong as its primary meridian instead of Beijing. This allowed Joseon astronomers to predict more accurately solar and lunar eclipses timing instead of following the Chinese times. 2 important traditional Korean medicine treatises were written during Sejong's reign: the Hyangyak Jipsong Bang and the Uibang Yu Chui. These books represented an effort from Joseon to develop its own system of medical knowledge based on local herbal plants and suitable for Korean climates and its people's constitution, which was distinct from that of China. In 1428, a son murdered his father in Jinju. This shocked Sejong greatly. Joseon was a Confucian society, and it followed the 3 fundamental principles of human relations: loyalty between ruler and subject, filial piety between father and son, and female devotion between husband and wife. Sejong ordered Sol Sun and other scholars to compile stories of loyal subjects, filial sons, and faithful wives from Korean and Chinese history. This was meant to guide and inspire his subjects. It was published in 1434 and was titled Samgang Hengshildo, an illustrated guide to the 3 bonds. Later versions were published in hangul. An interesting thing to note is that Sol Sun was of Uyghur origins. His father, Taejong, freed many slaves, but that didn't actually ban the practice of it. Sejong enacted laws to help the slaves and common people, though. In 1426, he granted Nobi women 100 days of maternity leave after childbirth, and in 1434, granted the husbands 30 days of paternity leave. Pak Yeon was a teacher of King Sejong, a government official, scholar, writer, astronomer, and musician. He notably helped Jang Yongshil in creating his inventions. It is said that him and Sejong composed over 200 musical arrangements. He and other Korean scholars developed the Pyongyang, a lithophone modeled on the Chinese biangqing. It was used primarily for ceremonial rites. King Sejong finished his work on hangul in 1443 and published it in 1446. He worked on his Hunminjeongeum while he was increasingly getting sicker and sicker, even possibly losing his eyesight because of his intense work on hangul. Again, I invite you to watch part 1 to learn more about the creation of hangul. King Sejong died in 1450. It is said that he might have had diabetes, edema, swellings, and other conditions due to the fact that he didn't move a lot. He made his first son, Munjong, crown prince. Munjong helped his father after 1439 because his father was increasingly ill. In 1442, Munjong acted as regent for Sejong. King Sejong was buried in Yeoju. King Sejong is commonly called Sejong the Great, Sejong Daewang, no doubt because of his creation of hangul, which wasn't seen as great back then by the elite, but after the collapse of Joseon, it was without a doubt of paramount importance in giving Koreans a sense of identity different from China and Japan. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment.